Hey, folks, welcome to another Your People, Your Place podcast. And today we have a special conversation with Charlie, who is in the YPYP community. And today we're going to talk about the evolution of man and woman. And as technology has propelled us forward in so many ways, we've had an interesting take on this, and we were thinking about what has and how has life really evolved for us as human beings and our needs. Have we evolved as creatures? Do we want more or need more, or are the same basic elements that were there in the very beginning the exact same elements that are driving us today? So I am going to invite in Charlie, and Charlie is, I think, there. Charlie, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank
You
you
are
very
there.
much,
Okay.
David.
Yes.
Thank you for
And
welcoming me.
and I'm going to give you just the basic particulars about Charlie. I don't know his sign, but he's a 53-year-old English chap or gentleman living in Australia. And
Yes.
So, Charlie, we talked a little bit about this topic and the evolution of man. And I had the revelation that have we really evolved at all? Is there anything different about us today with all this technology, or are we just kind of the same? And I've done an ad about talking about how getting the basics of food, shelter, and clothing. Those were early. You go back 100,000 years, and obviously those were the basic needs that had to be met. And arguably, it was probably food and shelter, and clothing came along later. I don't think anybody was wearing Armani back then. And fast forward to today, and how different do you think we really are in terms of, yes, we want some physical and we want things out of life, but do they really extend beyond the basics of food, shelter, and clothing, and that security that comes with that?
Well, we've got it strikes me that now I'm 53 and I'm sort of starting a new chapter in my life. And as I'm doing that in Australia, I'm in a rural community with a very small village of people, all of whom have got their own little contributions to society. This isn't necessarily what they do for a living or their work or how they earn income. People don't even talk about that, actually. And everybody's really different. You know, there's some real rough-handed, gnarly characters, and there's a few sort of nice, they've got very clean fingernails. But everybody lives in the village, and by that I mean everyone lives a couple of miles apart, centered around this old pub in the middle of the village next to the river, that nobody goes to, but because that's just for tourists. But everybody sort of lives around here, and we see each other all the time, and we all have our different roles in the group. In the group of about maybe 40 or 50 people, everybody's got different roles, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody helps each other out. And there are a lot of crises here. There's flooding and fire, bushfire, wildfire every year.
Mm-hmm.
And so, or at least the significant threat of that, and therefore the measures that people go to prevent it or to stay safe, to look after each other, really unite people together. And so it strikes me, David, that the more I make my life according to what it probably was 100,000 years ago, the happier I'm becoming. And it's made me
Interesting.
realize that maybe, I'm here to kind of ask you really what your opinion is, that is it that we have not evolved, but the society has evolved and has removed entire chunks of the way that our DNA expects life to be. Whole chunks of it have been removed and replaced by this terrible alternative. And one of the things I'd love to chat with you about in a bit is the healthcare aspect of it. I'm not getting political here. He's talking about what
Sure.
healthcare was like 100,000 years ago. Because I got a friend who's one of these
Mm.
nurses that's got a degree, so they're a doctor, but they're a doctor of nursing. And she has got some serious opinions about what healthcare used to be like 100,000 years ago and how that was eradicated and replaced with some bizarre system which has got nothing to do with people being healthy. But
That's
more on that
interesting.
later.
Very. Yeah.
So, is there a difference then between in this evolution? Maybe it's we haven't evolved, but society kind of has, and has it evolved in a way that's actually beneficial to us?
Well, it's interesting. So I paint this premise again of us going out and getting our basics, the food, the shelter, the clothing, and I completely skipped over the community aspect of what life was like and how early civilizations were absolutely built around communities, and arguably some great civilizations were wiped out because they were so tight in community that when sickness like smallpox came in, entire civilizations were eradicated because there wasn't sparsity and people were not interspersed in the countryside. They were living in community. And arguably today, we live in community, but it's interesting. Do we really participate in community? I think what makes me challenge that aspect, and even hearing as you're evolving and growing in the community you live in now. I'm in a new community, having moved in the last couple of years, and I'm still building my community down here. In particular, on the friendship side of things, most of my key friendships are still back in my home state of Wisconsin. So yeah, that community is something that I think today, because we move and we're a little more transient, and because we busy ourselves with work and kids and kids activities, that's one that I just grew up at a time that the house didn't center around kids activities. So there was time for the adults to focus on community and social aspects. And it seems today we've just moved away from that. How many people, and I've seen some articles on this, of how many people don't know who their neighbors are. And if you were in a pinch and had something happening at your house, can you go up and knock on your neighbor's door? Or would you feel uncomfortable doing that? And that's a very, to me, that's a kind of a disturbing trend to have happening in today's world. I believe we have to, and of course, YP is predicated on community and putting some community back together and propping each other up and supporting one another through whatever it is we're going through, and sharing in the positive and all of that good stuff. So yeah,
So what is it? Can we define then what we're talking about today? Yeah, fine. And there's issues. We've been splintered and all this kind of thing. We've got all kinds of different distractions, or what we're told is important. If we go back and we look at what people were looking like in a sort of anthropological, archaeological way, what were we doing 100,000 years ago? There was no agriculture. There were no cities. There was, we were effectively, can I say we were living in a big cave as a clan? And can we just go through each of these departments and describe, just based on our basic education, neither of us are professional anthropologists or anything,
Yeah,
but we've got an
that's
education.
yeah,
We've been around the
sure.
museums. We've read. We've been taught. We've seen movies like The Croods. We know what cave people are. So can we just go through that and just go? Hang on a second. This is what we evolved to be, and I think that that's going to set us on a really good line for. Hang on a second. That's wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong. How can we
Yeah,
make it better? And what can YP provide that brings all of this together? And it can provide so much.
well,
It's ridiculous. And I'm very grateful to you for it.
yeah.
So tell me, David, so I'm coming to you. You're in a cave. Who's the boss of this cave?
Yeah, that's a interesting way to pull this apart. And I think what's also interesting is it's going to probably versus life today. It may get us in a little hot water because I think um, I think the first thing was there was somebody, I believe, that was probably viewed, either someone or maybe two people that were based on physicality, would be my guess. Maybe physical
Mm-hmm.
size, strength, that was viewed as a quote unquote leader.
Yep.
Now,
So here's the thing.
I believe you and I would agree, without trying to bring anything, any sexual overtone, that it was probably a male. Fair enough?
I believe that it worked like this: that there is a woman who is in charge of the cave. She's in charge of the
Mm,
hearth. She's in charge of
yes.
making everything tick over. And she's experienced. She's done everything. She's probably not the oldest. The oldest is the brains. She's the memory. She remembers how to treat everybody. She's like the medical records system for the herbs and medicines, treatments, and all of the individual cases. And she understands all of the people in the clan.
Wow.
She knows how everybody should be cured. And she remembers, oh, yeah, 30 years ago, we had this sickness. So what you need to do is this and this and this. And they need to drink this and turn them over and blah, blah, blah. And 3/4 of them will survive. It'll be okay. But you've got to do this. Otherwise, everybody dies. And don't speak to anybody from another clan for 2 months. That kind of thing. That's the oldest woman. The woman who's really sort of punching and charging is maybe she's about 40, and she is very well respected by everybody, and she's a leader, and she's in charge of the hearth. And the reason that she's in charge, and the reason that it's not a man that's in charge, is that the men are only there very rarely. The men are normally away,
Yes.
either herding or hunting. Now the
Yes.
women look after the local stuff that they're growing around there, by which I mean not harvesting necessarily, but maintaining, protecting, nurturing, and harvesting the berries, nuts, herbs, etc. that contribute all the vitamins and health to the humans there. So they're looking after that lot, and maybe they have to travel a little bit to get there. The men are traveling much further and coming back only occasionally, like once in a moon, maybe, or twice in a moon, to come back.
Yeah.
Um,
Or
and
not coming back because something
yeah,
bad happened
absolutely.
to
And
them.
and what this does then provides a ritual which we as humans are very familiar with even today. And that is the returning of the people, and the women go, here they are, they're going to do their big song and dance, and we're going to go, oh, you're amazing,
Mm-hmm.
you're amazing, well done, oh, look at the size of that deer that you brought us, well done the men, aren't the men amazing? So the men come in and they give their big woo hoo 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 hoo, and everything's very ritualized and sexualized, and everybody has a great big feast. And didn't the men do well? But shut up and sit over there and don't put your muddy boots anywhere near my rug. That's which they're dealing with. This is just my image of how the thing works.
Well,
but I think there's a boss woman. There's maybe a leader guy.
Yeah.
That, amongst them, of course there is. There's a tactician, and there's a brute strength person, and there's a leader, and who's actually got the qualities of leadership in them. But there's a lead woman, a lead man. But there's also the other lot, which is an interesting bunch as well, who are not who, I don't know, the shaman type person, or the clown, all of these key characters in the thing, which I'm going to ask you about as well, that are so important.
Well, that's interesting. You went, God, you thought about this more than I did, because you painted such a vivid picture, which is great. Which maybe, given your background, is much
Oh
easier to
man,
do.
I'm thinking about it all the time, all the time. Yeah, but I still haven't got a degree in it. It's
Well, yeah,
2023.
it
I've got a
is. It
degree in
is.
YouTube.
But are we?
Yeah.
But in a way, what is that organization? Yeah, it's interesting. I'm thinking man hunting and gathering, although I think the women gathered quite a bit as well. Men hunted, I think, more for the physicality, for the meat, and like you said, I would agree that they would be gone for long periods of time. And definitely there was a danger of them not coming back, something happening. And even, I think the security is an interesting idea. You had said I could see community being really tight and important, and not wanting to mix necessarily with other communities, because what happens when one community has something the other community doesn't have? They maybe back then decided they should take it. And then you have kind of your early take on territory, um, some form of risk for having to do all this, right? Go out and get the food and hunt the animals. That was risky. Bringing the food back to your community and trying to do it unseen by other communities, I think, was probably something risky. And the reason I kind of go there is that kind of inherently built into us today, to share but not share so much. Is that baked into our DNA? We have a job to do. We got to go out and hunt or gather, and our jobs kind of feel like that at times, right? It's not. Some people are blessed to be doing something they absolutely love to do, and others do it because it's a means to an end. I think a lot of people do it as a means to an end, and there's maybe even
if we think about the stuff
fear.
we used to do,
There's perhaps a fear about that again, of not wanting to be caught up or caught with my reward, with my my hunt. And
yeah. So can I ask then?
and I wonder,
is there a thing
how
about
people
roles?
Yeah.
I mean, the role that you had 100,000 years ago, it wasn't like, oh, I feel like, this is my calling. I have a vocation. I would really like to do this. How did that work, David? In a cave 100,000 years ago, did people have callings, or is a calling just a cry from your own DNA to say, you idiot, what you're doing is completely unnatural in a
Yeah.
ridiculous fake society? Don't do it. Don't do what your parents are expecting you to do. You shouldn't have to go and work in a stationer's office. It's unnatural. You should be doing, your vocation is pulling you to come and do this.
Yeah.
And I think that there were very few roles in the cave, but that there were enough to suit every person's natural vocations. You think?
Well, that I think, yes, I do. But then when I hear you say that, I also hear that if there's time, think how slow time would move back then. I mean, days. If you had a supply of food for any length of time, or access to your water, you, at certain times, I think they could have some, dare I say, downtime. So when did, and if you look back, I guess I'm going back to my school days now. Gosh, that's scary, going back to grade school and thinking about, early cave art. So obviously art, some expression of, I want to recreate what I've seen, and get that onto the wall of the cave. So there was some need, some desire to tap into that talent. So who was the painter? Who was the person in that community that came forward and said, I can paint something with berries and blood and whatever it is that they were using, and I can leave a story behind. And then I think from the arts, the other thing that I believe emerged early on was obviously the form of, tapping, making noise, trying to put that to a beat. I'm not saying anybody was writing a symphony back then, but I think humans could make noise, obviously. So I don't know the entire history of music, but along with art, I think even some of the early cave art had some references to certainly dancing. So if there's dancing and there's festivity, is there some form of, and I did have to take a music course in college. I don't know what the earliest days of percussion would have been, but animal skin over something to beat on. But I think those are elements that evolved, I think, pretty early to have some expression to pass time, to entertain the community, to I don't think stand-up comedy was necessarily emerging in the very early days, and then you go into the early, I don't know,
I believe
community
it was.
and the court jester. But I think there probably was some physicality of somebody who could, whether it's they're doing cartwheels or they're climbing a tree really fast, or they're or kids are throwing something back and forth. They get a nut from a tree, or throwing, I don't know.
I think that's kind of interesting.
The element of what was there, that what would the community do when they would celebrate? You brought up that celebration, and I think that's, it seems, today is, we're in the early part of November. We just closed out Halloween, and I'll be damned if there are not people putting their Christmas lights up already. And yet there are so many people that
what else have we got? We've got, how often do you reckon that you can do it? How often do you reckon you can celebrate something as a human now? Because it's in your DNA. How often do you want to? Is it every weekend? Who celebrates every weekend?
Yeah, I believe
pretty much everybody does a bit. There's a bit of a bump, isn't there? Every weekend there's a bit of a whoop. Here we go. There's a bit of a joy. I
think there's a joy and an expectation. However, if that joy and expectation isn't met, then what do? We get bummed out, and we're like, oh man, the weekend came and went, and I didn't do anything. I sat on the couch, and we feel we feel guilty. We don't know how to necessarily pass time, and yet we seemingly have this gap of because when you say, how often should we celebrate? Well, arguably, there are plenty of people out there that say, well, you should celebrate every day you wake up. And some people look at that and scoff and go, well, that's just not my reality.
Yep.
But
So if it goes in cycles, we've got stuff in our in our DNA. We've got our annual cycle. We've got the cycle of the sun. We've got at the lowest ebb, at the solstice, we've got Christmas. We've got the New Year. In the old days, Yuletide, summer, the winter solstice, where the sun dips down and you don't see it for 3 days, and then it comes back up again, and hooray, it's a new year. We've got the summer solstice when it's at its highest. We've got the harvest coming in. We've got all of the that's the sun cycle. Then we've got the moon cycle once a month ish, and we've got that moon coming through. And maybe there's the female cycle, which is the length of a moon, and there's maybe the male cycle is timed in with that somehow, that the men are away for a certain part and then they come in at just the right time. Maybe you come back in when the moon is like this, and this is when we have a big la la la, and everything is thumbs up in the rugs in the back of the cave department. But not at the other time. That's the time for us to come together as women and to do our private thing together, and honoring that, and then being able to celebrate that. And men, you go off over there and you do your hit each other over the head with the sticks and the ball thing, whatever weirdness you get up to, and then you come back, and you better come back with some deer. And when you do, everyone's really happy. So if that's a monthly cycle, then we've got a weekly thing, which we have at the moment, and was certainly set up by the religions. You've got to have a weekly cycle. You've got to rest.
Sure.
But also, you just say you've got to rest, but if you're not doing something more, we did an amazing thing, and then we rested. It's like work, play, rest. Something.
Yeah.
We need a weekly thing, which is a bit of a sort of a hey.
Yeah.
And then the annual things, which are, and there's a big performance, or whatever it is.
We want to have the party we want to have the good time all the time. I think a lot of people want it, but very few want to put the effort in. And I think that just the simplicity of what entertainment used to be versus what entertainment is today. We've packed all these things in between it. From our basic human needs, which is kind of the point of this. Did we just mire and bog down and just put all kinds of crap in front of our basic needs? And we have people in our ears telling us that this stuff is important. If you're not watching the Netflix show or this happening series, or you're not part of this, you're not part of the it crowd. And the reality is, does that stuff meet our need and our basic need for this communal celebration? Arguably, you could say it doesn't. I would say it doesn't. It falls a little flat, and because we're not making those real personal connections. Go back 100,000 years, and it's who is in the community. Who is in the maybe back then it was as you used the word, herd, which sounds pretty prehistoric, but it was obviously things were very different, and you knew what everybody did. I like your idea that there's wisdom, and I think wisdom today is looked at. I don't know if you feel the same way. I think wisdom today takes a little bit of maybe a back seat to, well, I got the internet, I can look anything up, so I'm smart. And we don't put our wisdom in experience. We put it in the ability to get information. Well, I can get that information. Why do I need that? Well, life wisdom, if you go back to your cave situation, there was probably somebody who was the wise person, the wise man, the wise woman, the shaman, they were the doctor of the clan or the community. And yes, they knew things based on a life experience and accumulated knowledge of what was going on around them. There was no faking that. There was no faking it. They earned it. And today, I don't know if we, do we value and the
I think that we
changing
do.
generations, do we value wisdom the same way?
No, I think it's making a revolutionary comeback. But there's a lot of the wisdom that's coming out. Yet there's great wisdom, but wise people seem to be very separated for us. Thank God for the internet that we are able to tap into some wonderfully wise people who are out there in all kinds of different departments. Wise people in business as well as wise people in spiritual growth and all kinds of different things. But elders, we haven't mentioned them. Yes, we've been speaking about them in general terms, but in our modern life, I mean, the lack of, we've been talking about back in the cave, everybody was these sort of 40-year-old wise woman, the wise, perhaps not wise man, or the shaman, or somebody, the medicine man, or the somebody who communes with the dead ancestors and bringing in that kind of thing, the magic. But what about our elders today? Where have we, somehow it's socially acceptable to put our elders let's put them all over there together. We need them. These people have got the knowledge. These people have got the wisdom. These people, they've seen the Depression, the war. They've seen that massive expansion that happened in the 50s. They've seen, hi, I've got my white picket fence and I'm a salesman and I wear my hat and I come home and, hi, Judy, I'm home. That kind of thing that happened. And then it was get rid of that, or there was horrific. And then we started losing wars because the wars started to be fought for the wrong reasons. And now everything is, where are our old people now? Then these are the wisest people on the planet, and they are drugged up in homes. Yes. And I think we need to get them out and get them back into society and start listening to them. What do you think? Because that's how we used to in cave times.
Well, absolutely. And I think that even I'm Gen X, and my mother is going to be 88. She's going to kill me for saying that, but in another week and a half, she's going to be 88. And I used to cherish the times that I could sit around. My grandfather, my dad's parents died earlier when I was younger, but I was able to spend time with my mother's parents, my grandparents, and I absolutely cherished and revered the time that I could spend with them and asking them about the Depression. When they got married, I loved hearing this. When they got married, my grandmother made more money than my grandfather. I think my grandmother made $15 a week, and my grandfather only made $12 a week. And at some point he got on top of it. But but the point is that, and they're to hear what their focus was, it was just different. They didn't have all the noise that we had. They had their family, and their family had some hardship, and they rallied around the family. And the communities that evolved this would have been the city of Milwaukee in Wisconsin. And, they lived my grandparents were Polish, and they lived in the Polish neighborhood. So even the sense of community in the early 1900s here in the U.S., being a country of immigrants, early communities were built by ethnicity. In Milwaukee, there was the German neighborhood, the Italian neighborhood, the Polish neighborhood. And you still had this sense of, again, maybe the word clan is, I know it has horrible overtones when you think of racism and Ku Klux Klan, but we're talking about it had a community aspect of, you lived with where you came from, you lived with those people. Now today, of course, we've melded together far better than almost any country, I would say, arguably, and we do a lot better than we're told. But as we've mixed more, gotten busier, I look at my kids. My kids are in their 20s, and I don't think they have the same. It's not that they don't respect their grandmother; they just don't see it as the same opportunity that I did. And I don't know if it's. I don't know how I would explain that.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's something that we don't need to.
But I think you're right. I think in some ways it's coming back. We've gotten so busy with this flood of information that's out there, and all the social media and all the access to information. I've had plenty of conversations about this. If you think of the points of information that are at your fingertip today with the internet, it's mind-boggling. It's just, I can't even wrap my head around it. Versus when I was in high school, if we wanted to write a paper, you went to a library. If you were fortunate enough, your family may have bought a set of encyclopedias from a door-to-door salesperson. Dare I say salesman back then. And you'd page through the book and read about World War II and Pearl Harbor, and you'd write a paper about World War II. You'd call your grandfather and ask his account. You would ask your parents what they knew of the war, and that's how you pieced everything together. Today, if you were to write a paper on World War II, you can sit down and ask ChatGPT to write a paper. You don't even have to leave your house, and let alone talk to anybody. But I grew up at a time that we were talking more and more, and I just see us, if you go back that 100,000 years, I think that sense of community was, you knew the importance of it. You knew the importance of protecting it. And I think today we feel empowered to be independent, hugely independent. And
do you think it's an empowerment, or is it an absolute undermining?
I think it's an impairment.
You think it's a good thing or a bad thing that we're independent?
I think it's a bad thing. I think it's a bad thing. And I mean, if you look at the hangover of COVID, that we're still, we'll be measuring the repercussions of COVID for years and years to come, and just the effects on children. My youngest son moved out and moved on his own, and COVID hit like 3 months, 3 months later of him moving on his own. So here he's trying to establish work, live on his own, and then COVID hits. I mean, it's like, and well, you can't come over, or we can't see each other as often. I mean, it's just, it just was debilitating what it did. And the reason I say that is because I think, well, my kids did pretty good. And then my son actually brought it up the other day in a conversation. He said, yeah, well, look, the economy isn't great right now, and this is on top of me moving out and getting started on as an adult and having to go through COVID. And I'm like, oh, damn, maybe I oversimplified it for him. Maybe I'm assuming he's okay, and he assumes he's okay, and he won't know how unokay he is until 5 years from now or 10 years from now, when he just, has a fear built in, when, and I'm not a big fan of the word triggered, but he'll be triggered by some event and go, oh my God, here it's going to happen again. So I think
what are the things
the
that
community
we get
has
wrong?
got to bounce back.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think are the things that we get wrong in modern society? The classic things that everybody always needs help with, that we wouldn't need help with if we were living in the way that we have evolved to. Like, say, for example, we marry the wrong person twice and then we get it right. Talk me through this.
Well, I can't relate to that at all. Yeah, I think a vast, and this certainly might be controversial. I think a vast majority of problems that we have today would disappear or be alleviated tremendously if we had stronger community, without a doubt. Here in the States, we have a problem with mental illness, and I didn't even know this until I read some article, and if I can find it, I'll share it in the notes to this podcast. There was a bill somewhere in the 80s, and the U.S. was supposed to build up to 2,000 medical facilities to handle mental illness. And I think at the time, the U.S. had maybe 800, 700, 800, and the institutions came under attack, rightfully, for, whether it's the electroshock therapy and kind of bad conditions, bad treatment of people, not enough focus on rehabilitation. And instead of getting the funding, it got politicized between two parties. And instead of moving the number up, we started closing facilities in our country. And it seems that when you can't take care of people medically and mentally in your society, it gets in the way of so many other things, because it spawns more crime. It spawns a sense of maybe hopelessness into the community, that there's not a way out. And I think once you light that fuse, or that fuse was lit, I should say, it kind of dominoed into lots of bad things.
Okay, and how was mental illness looked after 100,000 years ago?
It's a good question. You'll have a better answer than me. I think
I've got two. One of them is that most of the mental health problems are not there because of community. So we don't have any of those disorders. The disorders that we have, all of them are eradicated by having a safe community for people to live in.
I think you're 100% right that the best way to eradicate it is to have a tight community. Not belonging is the symptom of so many ills in modern day society. It leads people to being victimized or bullied, being despondent to society. They want to seek revenge. The illness feeds itself. They might turn to drugs. And now then you have really bad things happen. Shitty things, shootings and mass shootings. And I don't believe I have ever in my years of, I'm a fair bit interested in crime series and crime shows and murder type stuff. You know, it's entertaining, but you never hear of, well, this person was there are rare cases of this person was an upstanding person, part of a vibrant community who snapped and did something. A lot of it is somebody who was rejected in some way, shape, or form, pushed away by friends, family, teachers, and they just didn't have any sense of where to go, and that would leave people feeling horrible, understandably. And I agree with you that back 100,000 years ago, almost impossible to happen, because there were things that had to get done to take care of that clan and that community, and so you had to be active. You had to be participating.
I believe that banishment happened.
Key.
I believe that people were banished, and then, you know, up until Middle Ages, banishment was a thing, because if you were banished from a town, you were pretty much screwed, and you're out there in the country with the, you know, with the bandits and everything, you know, lawless wilds, and you can't get into another town. So who are you? No, you can't come in. No, you're not allowed in. You're a stranger. So I think that banishment was a threat to people, to say, yes, if you don't sort your stuff out, you're going to be banished. Or if you take advantage of what is here, the safety of this place, if you treat people badly, if you do something horrible to that young woman, then you will be banished. You do not do that. You treat everybody with respect, and you'll be treated with respect. These kind of community principles that kept things ticking along. And if somebody did something that was outside of the societal practice, which is our own deep-seated ethical, moral standards that we have today, are the same as they've always been 100,000 years ago. No, you do not take what is not yours. And that includes all of the 10 Commandment things and non-consensual sexual activity and all of this. You've got to do it properly. You've got to earn it. It's got to be approved by everybody in the clan. Yeah, you go for it, son. You have approached her in a respectful, beautiful way. You carry on with that, and you're going to be the happiest man in this whole clan. You go for that, and you have our blessing. She feels happy. She likes you. Go for it. That everything is good. When things are isolated and somebody is desperate, then horrible things start happening. When somebody is banished in school, how many people in a school already feel banished, and they're in the school? Those are the people that come back with a machine gun.
Again, we're not trying to take on political issues, but again, that is a problem in today's world. It is a problem here in the U.S. on the education system. There's a lot of controversy over that, but arguably, I still think the onus on creating community starts at home, in your own house. Take your own accountability for trying to lift up and help other people. In war, of course, and in the movies, the line has been very famous and uttered countless number of times, and that is, leave no soldier behind. Kind of that you knew that was the thing of honor. There was a code. There was a duty to not leave a soldier behind. And I think we need more of that attitude in community today, in what can we do to not leave somebody behind. And that goes from young people all the way up to our elders. When the elders are sitting alone in a home, like you said, doped up, waiting for the end, and their family isn't coming to see them, man, what is wrong? There's something wrong with that picture. They are a human being. They have knowledge, they have stories, they have wisdom, and we need to find ways to tap into that and put that to good use. And all along the line, from the old all the way down to teaching our young people the importance of, I think a strong, independent mind is okay to teach, but there's still, you have to live for something bigger, in my opinion, and that is the community aspect of life and giving. And the more we give, the more we get to receive. If you want to, I love talking about gratitude, and if you want to receive back gratitude, and it starts with having some yourself each day, and then trying to give somebody something to lift them up, pull them up. And that's really, to me, that is the epitome of what community has always been. And if we let anything get in the way, which I think we have arguably let lots of things get in the way, you get what we have now. And I'm hopeful, Charlie, I'm hopeful that things go in cycles, and I think it's a pendulum, and I do think it's going to start swinging, or it already has started to swing back. And we have to get out of our homes. We have to use the power of technology for something other than, porn and political hate speech. It's got to have a greater purpose, and it undoubtedly does, and it can bring people together. There's great knowledge out there, so we can be learning and all of that. The things that we talk about in our community that we want to build up, all that, it's all there. It's all teed up. We have to start talking and start coming together, put it into action.
The thing that I'm really grateful for about this community, David, is that we're literally about as antipodes from each other as we could possibly get. We could not be further away. There are probably no two humans who are physically further apart than you and I are right now. And we are very close, and I'm very grateful for that closeness, because I know that you are so wonderfully objective about everything that I'm going through, and vice versa. And so, our parents, who are perhaps the closest, or maybe our partner or something, they're so close to us that it's difficult for them to be objective. When a parent with a child is like going, "Come on, dude, get up, you've got to go to school." Whereas the grandparent is like, "Don't worry, come on." The grandparents go on a sort of slightly longer wavelength, because they can be more objective about it. "Come on, what are you going to? You've got to pass your exams, because otherwise you're going to get a shitty job." And the grandparents going, "You're going to do what you need to do in the time that's right for you," because they're looking back at a bigger picture. And what I love about big picture is really useful for this. When we're on our own, we see the smallest picture, and it's so self-judgmental and isolating, and it's just a mirror, and it's terrible. Whereas it could not be more objective. I come to you, I can talk to you about, "Dude, this is how it's going with setting up my theater company and what have you." You don't know anything about theater, and I know you don't. But you, with men in our 50s with graying beards and glasses, and we can look at each other, and you can go, "Dude, I'm totally hearing you. Have you thought about maybe this, or how's it going with the what's it?" So that I can feel like accepted and part of a community, that I'm not alone. Because whatever we're doing out here, we feel alone. We feel lonely. I don't mind admitting that it is lonely in business.
It is. It is, and there's articles that have been appearing. Same thing. If I can link some of those in, I will. There is a loneliness epidemic that is building, not only in our elderly, but right in our sweet spot, right in the midlife. of people that have shallow friendship pool, almost no inner circle, and we've kind of done it to ourselves. And we are filling our time, I think, in some ways, with these new toys and gizmos and stuff, but it's burning a lot of people out. They're not getting that gratification. They're not getting that sense of community staring at a screen or watching Netflix. People want to be out. They want to talk. They want to make it more personal. I want to see you succeed as much as you want to see me succeed. I don't need any more crash and burn in my life. There's crash and burn on the television and in the news and in mainstream media. I don't need to see more crash and burn. People are burnt out on it, on the negativity. That's why I think the pendulum is starting to swing. They're tired. And I love this phrase because it really does epitomize getting off your ass and doing something different. And that is when people get sick and tired of being sick and tired, they take action. And I think a lot of people are sick and tired of being alone, sick and tired of being behind their front door of their house and not knowing who their neighbor is. And I think it's time of all ages to really embrace community in a different way, in a modern way, with the tools that we have. Like you said, we are in what are we separated by? 15 hours or 14 hours?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that, I mean, and it's
I'd
crazy. And yet we can still build something and be involved in supporting one another and sharing our wisdom, sharing our dreams, our successes. And and hey, it might lead to us physically getting together and doing it one of these days. So I think people are hungry for it. I hear it. Everybody I talk to about this, about your people, your place, nobody's going, oh yeah, no, it's not needed, David. No. The world's got enough. No, it doesn't have the right stuff. And even some of the, I love so many podcasts and things that are really positive, and they have a great message. They are great teachers, and they're expounding great wisdom. But what makes that wisdom really take hold is if you listen to something that's really powerful, and then you sit and you talk with another person about it, right? You get together a group of people to watch the same podcast and react to it. It's one thing for you to watch it. It's another for you to get together or have a group of people watch the same thing and then talk about, how did that hit you? How did that strike you? That's what YP is about. It's about the support of, what are you going to do differently? What did that wake up inside of you? What dream did that inspire? Same thing, you read a book. You read a good book and you're enthused to share that book with somebody because of what it meant to you. And that's what this is about, is taking it a step further and getting people together and talk about those wonderful dreams and aspirations and goals. And yes, even the fears and the failures. Yeah, we have to support one another for that. But it's not all the negative side of things. There's a lot of positive things that we are in the middle of in our midlife. There's a lot of great people that want to do great things. But like I said, there's a lot that are sitting out there and they're just pretty short on who they're sharing it with.
Isn't it funny how I totally agree. It's like, talking about how society has dealt us these replacement things for the original, integral, proper, real, natural way of doing it, the natural community.
Yeah.
We weren't given that. We were given school, which was a war zone. We were given, college, which was a war zone. And then we go out into very competitive industry. And these aren't your friends. These are your colleagues. These aren't your friends. These are some people that are in the bar on the Friday night. Are these your friends, or are these your first wife's school friends? What's going on? We evolved to have a community that actually supported us and got us and would listen to us. And YPYP feels like this is the community that I was supposed to have, not the one that society said, here you are, here's your community, have this, suck on it, and if you don't like it, shut up, die, go to your grave, and you're just another forgotten individual. Yeah. I believe that there's more to it than that, and you do not be deceived that you need to have loads in common with these people. You've got more than enough in common. You've got this. Our DNA is 99.9. Look at us.
Yeah.
Look at us, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
I mean, apart from the fact that my hair is slightly long, we're the same guy.
Yeah. And you're so right when you say we're not that different, because this is the whole point. We were hunters, gatherers, and we wanted shelter and safety. And today we do the same hunting and gathering. We don't die doing it typically, but we still have the same fear and we still want safety, and we still want that place of home, but we've just pushed the aspect of community a little too far out of reach. It's too far out of reach. And that's why I think there's the source of a lot of pain and loneliness and and that gratitude that I was talking about, being able to wake up. If you get into a community and you share something and you share your personal story with somebody and how you got out of it and how you got through a divorce and how you lifted yourself up, how you got back into the game and found true love and lived happily ever after, and somebody's at a different stage and you share your story with them and they go, wow, I can do this. I can do this. I see better days ahead. Well, it makes you feel good, and you've helped them. It's just that simple. We're built to help one another. We are built to be in community. That's how we started. In community, and the community was dependent on everybody being participatory in that community. We didn't leave people behind. We didn't. Yes, there were cases, of course, Charlie. There were. We can't forget things like the Salem witch hunt, and there are times and dark times when people were ostracized out of their society. Okay, but again, we don't gain anything by focusing on the exception rather than the rule. The rule is that when community is strong, the health of people is strong, the joy, the happiness is intact.
Yeah. Well, we know very well that Salem. We know that Salem happened because an outside force came in to destroy the society, and it succeeded absolutely. There were no witches in Salem. It was like, we're going to come in, and we, as an entire civilization, are going to destroy villages all over Europe, England, North America. It's absolutely disgusting. And that kind of regime is what we need to protect ourselves from. And YP goes, yeah. I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing with your divisive. I see what you're doing with your let's try to isolate. Well, I'm not going to be isolated or divided. I'm coming
Yeah.
together with the people that you cannot stop me coming together with. I'm coming together with a lunatic in Florida who's on the eastern seaboard of the USA. I'm on the eastern seaboard of Australia.
Yeah.
We're ridiculously far apart, and we're together, and we're helping each other grow, and it's
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah, even the communities that we were given, that we were handed, are not right, and we know this because now that we're in our 50s and we're deciding, you know what, that wasn't me. This is me. This is the real me.
Right.
And when those people go, what? What are you doing, man? We know that they are the non-player characters that were issued to us by the system, and they're just wrong for us. You're right for me, David. Your community is right for me, and I'm very glad to be part of it because they
Thank you.
accept me for who I am.
Yeah. 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 And it is for everybody. And we have the guidelines, and the reason we have the no politicking is the minute you compromise, you kind of lose in a way. So yeah, we want to invite everybody. We want us to get together. We want people to get together and focus on the commonality, the common struggle, not the exception, not the fringe stuff, And I love that. I love that. I love being able to, I've been asked at times, do you want to appeal to just men? And no, I don't want to appeal to just men. I think as a community, we may break up into groups at times around different topics that are specific for men or women that are, dating as a widow or going through menopause. Men don't necessarily, we're not going to relate to the menopause argument. So there's cases for us to break apart and get specific in that way, but that's about it. I think it's just, I want to keep it simple. Everybody's invited. Midlife and above, come on in. Let's talk about what we are looking to do with our life, what we're afraid of, what we've been through. Let's share our stories. Let's share the knowledge we've accumulated. Let's share some of the resources we're using, and let's react to all of this great information that's out there and have thoughtful, decent communications and some sense of dignity, I guess, is maybe I don't know if that's a good word or not.
Damn straight. That's beautiful.
Don't come in here looking to pick fights. It's dignity, respect.
Yeah,
it's kind of
there's no
refreshing.
dignity in getting one over on the other guy. Because
no grandstand. This is not a grandstanding.
Rub my face in the dirt of my miserable, every time all the different, how many different incarnations we have through our life, all the different Davids there have been. You could line them up. Maybe there's about 20 of them, not hugely different. I'm not talking about, and then there was a time I went, I know what, I'm going to be a children's entertaining clown. But they are evolutions of yourself. And they,
yes.
All of them, you could rub my face in the ground at any number of times for the number of times I've fallen on my ass. But it's people like you being around to give me a hand and say, come on, up you get. Come on, let's keep going. We're going forward together. That's what life is about. And most people would rather go, ha ha ha, you fell on your ass.
Yeah, right. And I that's out there. That's out there. And there are even after 31 years doing what I was doing, and then to take this turn to develop YP, a lot of people are going, why? It's just, but because because I want to help
let's try and
people,
really
because
define
I want to bring people together, because I just want to do something where I can help other people. I can feel good about developing. Okay, scratch that. We got to edit this shit.
No, it's great. It's great. Spitball it.
It's. I think the best way to articulate why after 31 years I just zigzagged so hard is I'll tell you a quick story. I'll try and be quick. I had lost this job, all right? It changed, and I was in a family business, and I ran it for 10 years, and they put another family member in. It wasn't the timing I wanted, but it happened, and I certainly accept that. But I was out a couple months after that happened in a wine bar, which is not a big surprise if you know me at all. Anyway, and the bartender was talking about a job that she had. She had a IT job, and she got thrown under the bus by her boss, and instead of supported, and she ended up starting her own business, her own IT business. And her main reason is, she said, I was working on somebody else's dream. I wasn't following my dream. And boy, if that didn't hit me absolutely right between the eyes. I loved my job. I loved the industry I was in, but I was not the owner of that business. And I really made a decision that I wanted to do something more impactful, more meaningful, something where I'm my own boss, so to speak. And I thought, wow, I have been impacted so strongly by peer groups over my career that I thought, how can I take that to the mass, in particular the midlife people who are lacking that sense of peer support and community. And I thought, hell, I think I got something. and that is, in a nutshell, what landed me here. And very few people in my inner circle seemingly truly get why I'm doing this. I think a lot of them think I'm just nuts for doing it. But this is not just a passion. This is a drive, and it's important. And it's giving me defining purpose, and of course I know the intent is, I don't know what happened there. Oof.
That's all right. We're still going. It's good.
Oh, but I know the intent is in the right place, going in the right direction, and I'm just glad to be chasing this dream and doing it and bringing community and bringing people together.
Is there, can I ask you one, that's beautiful. I've got a crazy off the wall final question for you, David. Is there a David out there from somewhere back along your history, if you think you've had a load of Y-shaped fork in the road decision points along your life, and at any one of those, there's an offshoot. So there's a whole tree of Davids. There's a whole load of Davids on this that have got out from you when you were an embryo, and all the different decisions you've made. If there's you are this one, but there's a load of other ones that are out there. Can you pick on one? And what do you think that person thinks of what you're doing now? And let me describe, can you just pick one and just randomly describe what that David is doing? And can he be doing something totally different, but you've still got the same birthday, but life turned out very different for that David. What do you think about that, David? What do you say to that, David? And what do you think that David would be saying to you right now? This guy is in a really bad place because of bad choices. The one who made the bad choice every opportunity.
Yeah, I had here's something I had opportunities along the way in my career. Instead of working for a privately held company, I had an opportunity presented where I would jump into private equity and help the churn and burn, buy up, build big companies, get very wealthy doing it, stay until you sell it off, make a ton of money, repeat, and, just do it again. And I really thought hard about that because it was, as stuff gets presented to you, it was really enticing. I mean, we're talking a shit ton of money that I could have made, but it didn't match up with me. That would have been David who sold his soul to the devil in the absolute most cliche type of way, And I'm grateful I stayed true to that, and likewise, when things changed a couple years back, I could have absolutely jumped back in and looked for another job in the industry I was in, but I had 31 years of doing it. I invested myself emotionally in that job in a way that was mentally and physically exhausting. Traveling is not, I mean, I'm the last to complain. I can't complain about my life at all, but it comes with a price. There's a reason you get paid what you get paid, because you're putting your body out there and traveling and sleeping in, different time zones, eating shitty food, drinking in too much, not exercising enough. I just didn't want any more of that. I didn't feel I had anything left to prove. I wanted to go on and create something bigger. We talk about legacy at YPYP, and I wanted a legacy, and I want a legacy that is more than just being a company guy. I mean, those are a couple things that come to mind. I also had a real fear of going to college. I was the first one to go to college, and I don't know what would have happened had I not gone to college. I never really thought about that.
Think about it now. Think about it now. Who would you be if you hadn't gone to college? Describe Milwaukee DB now if you had not gone to college in 1985.
I'll tell you what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid because there's a history of alcoholism in our family. I'm afraid I might not be on God's green earth had I not gone into what I had gone into. I just was a little fearful of leaving the nest. I just, and by choosing what I did as a job and embracing it for 30 years and traveling, like I said, it came at a price, but it also created an incredible opportunity to see much more of this country here in the U.S. and to travel abroad. It gave me more opportunity don't regret any of it. I do think, had I not gone to college, I don't even know what I would have done for a living, because I had dreams of, I did really want to go to school to be a weatherman, a meteorologist. I'm very fascinated with the weather. Now, I think I could have had a pretty nice life had I actually not been afraid of the college commitment and to do that. And maybe I would be reporting the Jacksonville weather tonight at 10 o'clock. And I don't know. I don't know if that would be fulfilling. I think that would be fulfilling. I don't know. But again, not going to college, I just don't know what I would have done. I didn't even, once I got out and to college, it just was, well, I got to finish. There was never a thought of not finishing. And ideally, what I went to college for was I was going to go into the advertising business. I was going to be a Don Draper, in Mad Men. So smoking and drinking and writing great ads. So, except I don't smoke. And I do occasionally drink. The other thing, and I know this is cheesy. It's very cheesy, but it's 100% true. It's never too late. I'm in my late 50s. It's not too late, and you have to follow when you hear that voice, when it starts resonating in your head. And the other morning I woke up at about 3:30 and had to start talking into my cell phone because I had stuff running through my head to either turn into a blog or a podcast. It's not a bother to do that. There's a lot to talk about. And so I feel good choosing the path that I'm on. It would be so easy to go do something else, but it wouldn't be fulfilling. It wouldn't serve the purpose. It wouldn't allow me to feel the love, the joy, and the gratitude. And those are three words I love putting together. It wouldn't give me that if I just took a job for the sake of getting a job. I rather die broke, but have served a better purpose than, have another, more money in the bank and be able to, I don't know. I don't even know what retirement is. I'm not. I know I have friends that think I'm retired. To hell with you. I'm not retired. This is about you. This is for you. This is your people, your place. We'll talk soon.